Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and Kept It Off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and maintenance. Today we're going to talk about whether or not it's good to eat right before you go to sleep. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, especially from the psychological point of view, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my books, my recipes, and if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Alright, so I am recording here at the Piazza San Marco in Venice, or the St. Mark's Plaza. In the background, you can see St. Mark's Tower, and behind me is the actual church, which is one of the most iconic churches in Europe. It's famous for its Byzantine kind of architecture. I was fortunate to go to All Saints Mass there yesterday. The lighting's not the best because it's hard to get good lighting here at the right time unless the sun's out. But anyways, I want to talk about eating at night. Is it a good idea to eat at night? Well, it's a kind of a nuanced answer, I'll tell you that. For example, let's say you've done a 24-hour fast and you haven't eaten and it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Is it okay to eat right before you go to sleep? Of course, because you haven't had any calories throughout the day. So in that regard, there's not really a problem with eating right before you go to sleep. I would say in general, though, it's not ideal to eat before you go to sleep. Some people will eat dinner like at 7 and then they'll get hungry like at 10 before they go to sleep, and they eat, and then they eat a lot of junk food. I mean, to the point like Taco Bell, I used to have commercials how come to us the fourth meal of the day, which is like the midnight crap eat food. But ideally, you don't want to be eating in the middle of the day, or right before you go to sleep, I should say. And a lot of people who end up doing this is because they eat a very carby diet. And so you kind of have this trope of, you got to eat every 3 hours. We used to hear this all the time. You got to eat every 3 hours, blah, 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 blah. So you wake up at 5, you're eating at 5, 8, 11, you're always hungry. And we talk about that a lot in the fasting videos on the benefits of intermittent fasting, that when you kind of are eating all the time, especially when it's very carb, you're always hungry. So if you can switch to fasting regimen and more of a keto or a low carb, you don't get those cravings right before you go to sleep. Now, I've never had those cravings before I've gone to sleep. I've been fortunate, and I eat dinner exceedingly early, like at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I've never had that problem to get hungry. I will tell you in general, though, it is not good to eat a big meal before you go to sleep. Some of the more obvious reasons is that there's no movement afterwards. So you look at like Europeans. We talked about in the episode why Europeans aren't fat. We did that over in Florence. There's a benefit to what we call a postprandial movement or postprandial walk. So prandial is a meal. So moving the body after you eat is good. It helps the metabolism. It helps you digest the food. I mean, this is kind of obvious kind of stuff. Helps you digest the food. And so if you eat like let's say Europeans eat pretty late at 8 or 9, but then they walk a lot, that helps with digestion. And there's a lot of studies that show that if you have a postprandial walk, as opposed to, let's say, a preprandial walk, it helps with your glucose levels. It helps with insulin resistance. It helps with a lot of things. So ideally, you do not want to eat your big meal like at 10 o'clock and then go to sleep. Can it jeopardize or harm your weight loss and weight maintenance? Well, as I mentioned, there's always going to be exceptions. Like, for example, if you don't eat all day and then you eat at 9, again, you need the calories, but it would have been more optimal of you had you not eaten all day and then broken your fast at 7 and eaten at 7 and then taken a walk or have some sort of movement after you eat before you go to sleep. So that's the ideal. So, and the last thing is it a good idea to work out right before you go to sleep? Let's say you want to eat at 6, 7, then you want to go run a couple miles. I would tell you no, because the studies show that this does affect your sleep. You don't want to do rigorous exercise before you go to sleep because it's actually going to affect your sleep. And also, if you're going to do rigorous exercise right before you go to sleep, right after you've eaten, we've all done that, right? Where you get that heartburn where the food's going up your throat as you're running or whatever exercise you're doing. So no, what I would tell you is do your workout earlier in the day, eat around 7, 7:30. If you're one of these who gets hungry right before you go to bed, maybe eat a little later, like at 8, but then try to do some postprandial movement, some after eating walk, because it will help you out in the long run in terms of weight loss and weight maintenance. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.